I'm here outside the brand new Hard Rock in Bristol, Virginia, where they have a new poker room, and I'm going to check that one out and play for a few hours. And my main focus today is on trying to win money without having the best hand. So let's get in and see how I can do this. So I sit down at a brand new table and I'm in middle position and I look down at King 10 of spades. Obviously I open it up to $10, the small blind and the big blind call. The flop comes Queen 9-5, two clubs, one spade. It's not the best board in the world for a c-bet against two players, but we have position, we do have an open-ender, we do have a backdoor flush draw, and we do have an overcard. So with all these things, I think it's fine to just go about half pot, which is what I did. I bet $15, the small blind folded and the big blind called. And now the queen pairs on the turn. And this is an inflection point, and at this point I was thinking like the big blind is being lost to act both pre-flop and on the flop. I think that he probably isn't super strong. Obviously, he could have a queen, he could be trapping with a boat now, but when he checks to me here, I think that if I go around pot, I can get him to fold an ace high or a 9 or a 5 or some small pocket pair. And if he calls, I still, as I said, I still have a lot of outs going for me. So I bet 55 and he quickly lets it go, which is a good start. This next hand is a very interesting one, and I'm inclined to say please don't copy me, you'll see why. But first to the facts. We have pocket threes on the button, there is a limp, we could just limp behind, but I don't really want to play a multi-way pot in a high rake environment when I could have the initiative. Although there is nothing wrong with calling, there's nothing wrong with folding, I decided to raise this one up to 15 with my pocket threes, and the big blind and the limper both called. The flop is ace-10-5 with two hearts, one diamond. It's not the best c-bet flop in the world, but I do think I can represent the ace in this spot. I am the pre-flop aggressor, and I just went for a range bet here, 15 into a pot of 45, and the big blind folds, but the limper calls. And now look at this turn. It's bittersweet. It is a 3 giving us a set, but it also is a heart, which means that the flush comes in, which is not ideal. First of all, he could have a flush, and secondly, he might now not commit a lot of stacks, a lot of pots in a lot of stacks, a lot of pots, no, a lot of chips into the pot, because he might be afraid of the flush. But I have to go for value here, so I go 30 into the pot of 75, and he insta shoves for his remaining $139. So he's not super deep, but I was really in the blender here. So as you know, in live low stakes poker, players usually have it when they do this. And what does having it mean? Well, probably not top pair when the flush comes out, not even a set. So this is really either a bluff, which is quite rare, or it is a flush. Now the thing is, I just, for some reason, I didn't really believe him that he had the flush in this spot, even though everything screamed that he had it, the way he played it. But then I thought, would he really check jam here with the made flush there? It kind of seemed a bit fishy. I did the maths there. I had to be good about 30 something percent of the time. I was only good 20% of the time if he has the flush, but I thought there is enough margin of error there, like him having a bluff at least 10-15% of the time for me to make this profitable. Also, I wanted to show everyone that I do call down there, so I did flick in the call, and he shows 8-5 offsuit with the 8 of hearts. So he was basically drawing super thin there, and we actually flopped, or we rivered a boat, and we shipped this one. So first big one goes our way. In this next hand, we have two limpers, and I make it 25 on the button with pocket sevens, not realizing that one of the limpers was quite short stacked. He only started the hand with around $130. But as I said, I make it 25. The limper with $130 in his stack, he calls, the other player gets out of the way. The flop comes 6-6-4, two hearts, one club, This is not a bad flop for my exact hand. I'm probably ahead here, so I just go half pot here, and he quickly calls. And then on the turn we get a rainbow 5, which means now we have an open-ended straight draw. We have an overpair, although not one to be very proud of. And he's only got $80 behind. There is already $100 in the pot. There's nothing else to do for me than to shove here. I don't want to check and allow him to realize some equity. If we are beat, we still have quite a few outs, unless he has a boat, of course, but we are still drawing to an open-ender if he happens to have a 6 or an overpair that he was slow playing. So I just shove and he folds, so I take another one. In this next one, under the gun limps, we have ace-7 suited in the hijack. It is a bit loose to raise to $15 in the spot, but I did it because, as we can see, there is a theme developing. This table is quite tight and I can almost run over it. So I raise it up to 15 and the small blind and the limper both call. Now the flop comes king 5-3 rainbow. We don't even have a backdoor flush draw. Well, we have one overcard and we have a backdoor straight draw, but because of the way this has played so far, and we can definitely represent the king, it's unlikely that one of them has a king, I just continue here with a bet on the flop, and both players quickly fold, and we get another one through. So sadly, this tight table broke, so I got moved to another table, and this is a very interesting hand now. It's not a big showdown by any means, but just something that a lot of players do wrong. That's why I've included it here. So the cutoff makes it $15. Everyone folds. I am in the big blind with ace deuce suited. Now, normally, if you look up GTO charts, this is an easy call with ace deuce suited there, but he made it 5 times the big blind when he raised there, and I do realize that in live poker this is a very normal raise size, but that doesn't mean that you should just blindly call only because it is a normal raise size. You're getting a pretty poor price here. You're playing out of position against someone who is unknown to me in this moment, so I really don't want to be involved in this pot. So just fold. This is what I did here. Move on to the next hand. Don't sweat it. This next one is a very interesting one. I raise ace-king to $15 over a limper, and then the small blind calls and the limper gets out of the way. When then the flop comes 10-8-5 rainbow, I could check in this spot, especially because it kind of hits his range very hard, but I went for the standard range bet that I usually make in position when I'm heads up. So I went for $15 and he quickly calls. Now the 10 pairs on the turn, making it less likely that he has a 10. And in the previous hand you saw me, like in the first one in the session, you saw me bet big on the turn when the queen paired. But I think this is a bit different. First of all, I have more showdown value with my ace-king. And secondly, the 10 hits his range more than the queen did previously, and I don't think I can necessarily get him off even a second pair in this case, because I would really be saying that I have a 10 if I go big in this spot. So I checked behind, and now the river is a deuce and he checks again. And at this point I was thinking of going for the bluff here again, but then I thought I still have showdown value. So if he called there with 9-7, Jack-9, Jack-7, Queen-9, all of those hands will lose against me. So now I don't need to really bluff this river. He's never folding a 10, and I don't think he'll fold any other pair either unless I go really big, and there's just no need to go really big. So I check behind and he shows 10-6 of clubs. Well, what does this tell us? Well, first of all, he called $15 out of the small blind pre-flop with 10-6 suited, and then he played it super passively. On this river, he probably went for the check raise, I imagine, but he did not lead for value there. He was hoping that I would bluff, and great job, I didn't. And so we'll keep this in mind for the next hand against him. Because this next hand is coming now, and it's very interesting because we have exactly the same scenario. We have the cutoff who limped previously, he now limps again. We have ace-jack offsuit on the button, so I now make it $20 because I know that the guy in the small blind calls with hands like 10-6 suited, so I might as well raise it up with my big hands. I mean, not that ace-jack offsuit is such a big hand, but it's definitely ahead of his calling range, so I want more money in the pot. I'm playing in position, I should have a skill edge, so I make it 20. Sure enough, the same guy calls in the small blind and the limper folds. So again, heads up in the same scenario, same positions. And now the flop comes 9-7-7. I just go with my usual range bet, $10. He calls once again. Now the turn is really interesting. It's the jack. And now I have top pair, top kicker. So I size it up now. I make it $45 in the hope that he would still call me with a 9. Maybe he has a 9 to go with his gut shot or so, or he might even have an open ender. So whatever, I am going to bet this one 45, and he calls again. And the river is an 8, which is interesting. He checks to me, and I seriously considered going for value here because there isn't a lot that beats us, especially because we have 2 pair now with jacks and 7. So even if he has 9-8, we still win. And we do lose to 7s, but we also lose to a 10. And that was the big scare thing here. And I think a lot of players would automatically check behind. And I think in this case, a check behind is the right play. And the reason for that is the previous hand where he trapped with trip 10s there. He did not bet the river for value, so he would probably do the same here, I imagine. And this is why I didn't go for thin value. I just checked behind, and he did have 10-9 for the straight in this case. So thank goodness I did not bet the river. He would have check raised me most likely, and then obviously I would have folded, but I would have lost some money. And whilst I'm always a big advocate of going for thin value, this is not the spot to do so. This is just a quick one now, but I have an important point to make. There are 5 limpers and we have 7-4 offsuit in the big blind. We just check there. On the flop comes 9-7 deuce, and we have second pair, no kicker. Some players might think this is a good hand, and yeah, it's not totally terrible, but we're 6 ways on this flop. So when the middle position player bets out and the button calls, we have an easy fold. And please, especially if there is a caller there and if there are players behind to act in such a multi-way pot, if you have second pair, just get out of the way. So now get ready for a very important live low stakes exploit. So here we have 2 limpers and we raise it up to $20 with ace-10 offsuit on the button, only the cutoff calls. There's around $45 in the pot. Flop comes king-jack-10 with 2 hearts. We have bottom pair and the gut shot, and he now donks 15. Well, this can mean a lot of things. Usually it doesn't mean that he's very strong. He could be on a draw, so maybe he has a queen, maybe a queen with a pair, like queen 10, queen jack. He might just have a king or king queen, so something like that. I don't think that we need to raise at this point. We just want to see what he does on the turn, so I just called. The turn is not really great either. It's a 9. And now obviously the queen gets there, but he now makes it $20, so he sizes down a bit. He doesn't double his bet from the previous treat, and at this point I'm still a bit careful, but it's already getting a bit tricky here because I don't really see what I beat. That said, he makes it so small, I'm still drawing to the nuts, and I think I can do some maneuvers on the river if necessary. So I called again. And now the 8 of hearts comes on the river, completing the flush, and also, well, the queen was already there, but yeah, a 7 in theory would be a straight now. And he now donks 20 again. And now this is a really tiny bet, and this is a big tell. He never really has a big hand here. So what's the best that he could have? Something like 2 pair, which is not worth a lot on this flop. Maybe he has a straight. I wouldn't rule that out, but he doesn't really have a flush when he bets that small, like almost never. So what are our options now? We could call, but I don't think that our third pair is ever good here because he's not bluffing in the spot. He's got something. He just doesn't have a really big hand. So I think calling is out of the question. Folding, you could just give up. You didn't invest a lot of money in there. He clearly has a better hand than your 10. But I think the best course of action is to raise here. And you can make it fairly big. So he bet 20. I decided to go 135 and really put pressure even on a hand like a straight. I know he's a rather tight player. He limp folded quite a few times pre-flop before. So he doesn't want to put a lot of chips in with hands that aren't great. I make it 135. He tanks for about 2 minutes. Then he shows me, not on purpose, it was accidental, that he showed me an 8. And so I don't know, he probably has two pairs there, like queen 8, could even be the case for a straight there, but maybe king 8 for 2 pair, or jack 8. This is kind of my guess. And in the end, he does find the fold. So we take this one down again with a bluff at 1-3 live. To wrap it up, I'm going to show you another successful bluff against the recreational player. So here we open queen 9 of clubs to $10 in the cutoff. The small blind calls. Flop is 10-4-3 rainbow. We don't have a lot going for us, but I still bet range on this flop. I go $20. He calls quite quickly. And then the ace of diamond comes, bringing in the flush draw. It still doesn't help us a lot, but this is a scare card. And I think if he doesn't have an ace or better, he will fold if I go big. This play probably doesn't work in Texas, and it might not work in Florida, but in Bristol, Virginia, on this night, it definitely worked all the time. So I make it $40, and he folds very quickly. I played for 3 hours here and I'm really tired. It's after 1 a.m. I need to go to bed, but hey, I made $187 here. It was a pretty fun game, so I would love to come back and play a bit more in this amazing new poker room in Bristol, Virginia.